we need to be able to do as nuclear technicians is convert SI units, that would be international standard units, one from another, and we also ought to be able to convert from SI units into conventional English units and back and forth. So there's all kinds of conversions that we need to do, and this is extremely important to being a nuclear technician or a nuclear operator, is to be able to work especially from SI units into conventional English units and back, because what you have is an industry in America who's very much into American dimensions, but we're working with scientists and PhD researchers and things that are using the SI units, and some of our manufacturers are from Europe and from Asia, and they're using SI units, and we got to be able to work back and forth between metric or SI units one to another. So I think the best way to do this is just start into several different problems. We already had you memorize all the SI prefixes. Don't forget, what is a milli? What is a micro? What is all those different things? But going beyond that, we want to say, all right, how does this convert into conventional units? One of the units that we have you memorize is what's the definition of 1 curie. Okay, 1 curie of radioactivity, how many, and a radioactivity, remember, is how many disintegrations an atom is, or how many decays an atom is undergoing per time. And we said, oh, 1 curie is 3.7 times 10 to the 10th disintegrations per second. Okay? And another conversion that we have you memorize is that 1 disintegration per second is equal to 1 becquerel. Okay, becquerel being a new SI unit, and then we can talk about terabecquerels and megabecquerels and go on from there. So a lot of times, again, you'll have different reference materials. You may be working in a laboratory that likes to talk about microcuries and millicuries and things, but you may have to go look up references about isotopes and things in books that are going to be using the SI unit. So you got to be able to work back and forth. The other thing is, even in America, the U.S. Department of Transportation, when it comes to shipping radioactive goods, have all gone to the SI system of units, but again, day in and day out, most of our nuclear facilities work in American units. And so before you ship something across America, you got to convert it into SI units. All right, so let's say you have something that is 176 microcuries of activity. And it's something that's long-lived, so it's not really decaying away at this point very quickly, has a long half-life. I want to know, well, how many, let's find out how many becquerels or how many kilobecquerels or terabecquerels that is. So the first thing we need to do is get back to base units. So we use our railroad track method and say, all right, how many microcuries are in a curie? So we want to get rid of microcuries. And so we say, well, let's see. I remember micro has to do with 10 to the minus 6. So 1 microcurie must be equal to 1 times 10 to the minus 6 curies. Okay, so now if we stop here, we can cross out our microcuries and we're left with curies. But we want to go further and say, all right, from up above, you can see that 1 curie is equal to 3.7 times 10 to the 10th disintegrations per second. And 1 disintegration per second is equal to a becquerel. And some of you will right away go, oh, well, since a disintegration per second is a becquerel, you'll go straight from, 1 curie is equal to 3.7 times 10 to the 10th becquerels, and that's all right. But we cross out what we got here, and if we multiply the top and divide by everything in the bottom, we should find out how many becquerels this problem is. And so let's go ahead and do that. We can see in the bottom we're all dividing by 1, so we don't really have to worry about the bottom. So we take 176, multiply by 1. Remember the EXP button, we want to be continuing to use that, times 3.7 EE to the 10th, and it turns out to be 6.51 times 10 to the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 becquerels. Well, that's all great, but that's a pretty good big number, and we usually like our SI prefixes to get it to where we only have 3 numbers off to the side here. So we'll turn that 6.51 times 10 to the 6 becquerels. And since it's times 10 to the 6, we know times 10 to the 6 is equal to a megabecquerel. So 1 times 10 to the 6 becquerels is equal to 1 megabecquerel. And you can see the times 10 to the 6 just crosses out nicely there, and you end up with 6.51 megabecquerels. And this would probably be the answer that you would give in SI units, is that 176 microcuries is equal to 6.51 megabecquerels. You can see that a curie is really a huge unit of radioactivity. The becquerel is relatively a small unit of radioactivity. So this railroad track method works really well. The big issue here is make sure that whatever you want to put in the numerator, whatever you're looking for, and you want everything to cancel out, and your top always has to be equal to the bottom. So 1 times 10 to the minus 6 curies here is equal to 1 microcurie. This 3.7 times 10 to the minus 10